until about T-minus 4 minutes. A lot of stuff starts going down. T-minus 3 minutes, closing out the propellant load, so you're finishing out the liquid oxygen load and the liquid fuel load. T-minus 40 seconds, we stop interacting with the pad. The vehicle's just on its own.
All right, attention all B-19 operators. This is the final go, no-go poll for today's operations. Our main objective today is a 10-engine static fire.
Why 10 engines instead of all 33? This is the first V3 booster down at the pad right now, so there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. And if we do have a bad day, it limits the scope of the issues that we can have.
This will be the highest chamber pressure we've ever seen on a vehicle at SpaceX, so definitely going to be a pretty spicy test today.
And then you're counting down from T-minus 40. T-minus 4 on is when my heart rate really starts to tick up. And then we light the engines.
We are in the Star Factory, and this is an almost 1 million square foot facility that we've built to enable that production of both ship and booster. Starship is a fully reusable rocket. It's 2 stages, so it has a ship, which is the upper stage, and a booster below it. The booster accelerates the ship to get it going towards orbit. The ship is what actually goes into orbit to take the people or the payload to wherever they're going. The sound of progress. The rivet guns and the sledgehammers. Less sledgehammers than there used to be. The story of Starship starts with the founding of SpaceX.
3, 2, 1.
Rather than starting with the vehicle that Elon envisioned needing to get people to the moon and Mars, he thought it would basically bankrupt the company. It wouldn't be possible. So you have to bite it off in small pieces. And so those pieces, which at the time did not seem small at all, were Falcon 1, Falcon 9, Dragon, both cargo and crew, Falcon Heavy.
Falcon Heavy is supersonic.
These were the building blocks that let us cut our teeth on learning how to do rockets. Not the way the aerospace industry had been doing it, but the way we needed to do it to end up here where we are today working on Starship. Version 3 is what I like to call the foundational design of Starship booster and the pad. That's going to give us the new capabilities we need to do the missions in front of us. It'll be the one that puts humans back on the moon. It'll be the ones that put the first boot prints and then city on Mars. Starship is giant, and that scale is not an accident. It's not to win some Guinness World Record prize, which we did for both the ship and the tower. It's because we need that size to do the things we dream of doing with it.
Ship 39 is the first V3 rocket. This rocket is unlike anything anybody's ever done before. Version 3 is basically a clean sheet design of the ship. We essentially took a bunch of lessons from version 1 and version 2, and we took a step back and said, what were the things that were really problematic, either from a performance perspective or from a reliability perspective on the previous rockets? And then we directly addressed those with a variety of new designs. It can go up to orbit, it can stay on orbit for 48 hours, it can meet up with other ships, and it can do propellant transfers, which is really the core technology that you need to unlock Starship. Once you unlock that capability, the whole solar system is on your doorstep. And right now, what we're doing is we're actually going through checkouts. So we're actually kind of bringing the rocket to life.
We've never built a ship V3 before and gotten it to this state of production. So we are going to have special things to this specific vehicle that are going to be odd, but there's also things about the architecture as a whole that we don't really know how to deal with because we've only done simulations, we've only built fluid models of how we think a ship V3 operates. Now we have the real deal next to us.
First priority is your safety, the second priority is make sure the vehicle's okay, and then we worry about executing to our schedule.
We're quite excited, we're quite anxious, but all things considered, we're pretty well prepared. We think that we'll have a good result.
We intentionally started Starship with the ship portion because it was so novel. We have done a reusable booster before with Falcon 9, and so it's at least a little bit better tread ground. I will say, I think the booster turned out to be a lot harder than we gave it credit for.
This is an entirely new rocket. This is the most ambitious vehicle design I have ever personally worked on, and it is a wild thing to see come to reality here. The version 1 flight test campaign really exemplifies the rapid integrated test style that we do in SpaceX engineering. It took us 5 flights from our first attempt, from flight 1 to flight 5, to successfully catch a booster, which was honestly mind-blowing. Flight 1 was able to get off the pad successfully. It proved that we could get this full system together, and we learned a lot from the eventual failure of the vehicle in that flight. We were able to put together a lot of improvements on the launch pad and on the vehicle hardware design that led to much better success in Flight 2. We were able to make it with the booster to MECO. We were able to separate the ship, and we were able to begin boosting back towards the launch site. So we hit the next big milestone in the flight test campaign. On Flight 3, we were able to get all the way through our boost back burn. On Flight 4, we were able to do a successful water landing demonstration. And on Flight 5, we were able to come back to our launch site and successfully catch the vehicle with our chopsticks. To be able to go fly that and have complete mission success at that point of we got the payload to orbit and we landed that rocket was incredible. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it now. We're about to get into a really exciting period of the vehicle test campaign here, putting the thing through its paces and making sure that everything we designed works okay. Want to stop about right here? Get all of the pieces of the system working together for the first time. And if we're going to learn anything from that, we'll learn it as quickly as we possibly can. Booster 19 is actually the second of the version 3 boosters that we've built. Booster 18 came before it. We had an unfortunate anomaly during our first test campaign of the Booster 18 vehicle. This is the first version 3 booster that we've built, so this is Booster 18. This is really awesome because it's going to be our first full vehicle level operation and test with a version 3 vehicle. So the whole team's very excited about this. Sure hope it works. When we were pressing the nitrogen system, we had an explosion that took out the rocket, and thankfully we had designed that test to be safe. If something like that happened, we did not have propellants or reactive things on the vehicle, and so the test site incurred very little damage, and of course nobody was hurt in the incident.
Yeah, as part of testing, this is loud, so you learn to not be super skittish as you're walking around. So we have our booster here on site. We're going to be performing a cryo-proof. It's actually a really long day, so it's normally planned to be a 12-hour overall prop load and offload. It's just a ton of propellant that we're putting on the vehicle, and we do a bunch of test cases throughout the whole day, so it's a long one.
Taking booster SM to cryo high fill proof.
Cryo-proof is the first time you actually put propellant onto the vehicle. The liquid propellant that we're putting on, it does get pretty cold, generally in the 80 Kelvin range. We want to test like you fly and fly like you test.
I want 70% proof percentage. Affirm. And fuel interface is fully cryo now.
There is definitely nothing like a late night with your team in the control room. It's one of those milestones where you're like, wow, if I can load a rocket, this is amazing.
The FHT looks pretty stable. Let's go ahead and get booster configured for offload. Copy.